Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Charles Laughton in an episode of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense. This episode, from September 17, 1951, is entitled Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison.
You are about to hear a story based on actual events. To protect the innocent, names and places have been changed. Autolite and its 96,000 dealers bring you Mr. Charles Laughton in a story taken from life. Tonight's presentation of Suspense. Tonight, Autolite presents Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, a story concerning a man historically famous as the most notorious poisoner who ever lived, starring Mr. Charles Laughton. And now, with Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, and the performance of Mr. Charles Laughton, Autolite hopes once again to keep you in suspense.
Dr. Cream.
May I see her now, Doctor?
Dr. Cream, there was nothing I could do. I'm sorry, terribly sorry. I tried everything.
You tried everything. Sorry.
I did what I could. It was too late. Don't go in now.
I must go in. I must see her.
I'm sorry.
Emily. Baby girl. Emily. Doctor. My wife's dead.
Come away. I'll attend to things.
You don't understand. She's dead. I wasn't with her. I didn't know Emily, my love. My little girl. No. She can't be my life. Emily. Well, that was Emily, my only wife. She left me a widower with an income of £400 a year. It's rather extraordinary how long it took her to die. To look at the girl, you'd never have thought it. She was thin and sickly, but in possession of what must have been the constitution of an ox. I'd been poisoning her steadily for 6 months and expected her certainly to die within 3. It was a case history for the medical journal. So I wrote them a paper about it, anonymously, of course.
Inspector Waring.
Sergeant Dean, sir. I've got a letter here from the editor of the medical journal.
Why did they forward it to the Yard?
There's a manuscript that came with the letter. Just a moment, sir. Resistance to physiological action of alkaloid poisoning. Case history C, by anonymous.
Oh, what's the matter with that?
The medical journal people seem to feel that the man who wrote it did the job, too.
Put it on my desk. I'll be there in half an hour.
Right, sir.
3 weeks after Emily died, I made arrangements to move to London. There was no trouble, but then I hadn't thought there would be. The good doctor had made out a certificate based upon the history which I supplied. I had decided upon a refined intestinal disorder which bore a magnificent Latin name and closely paralleled the symptoms brought about by the poison administered. So much for the late and unlamented Emily Cream.
I'm sure as how you'll find this room most suitable, sir.
Oh, Dr. Cream, Dr. Neal Cream, ma'am.
Oh, how nice. I have another boarder who's a doctor. Well, very nearly. Medical student, don't you know? Mr. Bridgman. Ever such a nice gentleman.
Oh, really?
You'll find a very refined atmosphere in my house, Doctor. And scrupulously clean. Very scrupulous.
I'm sure of that, Mrs. Minns. I think this will do very nicely.
May I ask, Doctor, how long you plan to allow us the pleasure of your company?
I'm afraid I have no idea of that, Mrs. Minns. You see, I only just arrived from home. My wife died there a month ago.
Oh, how sad. How terribly sad.
See, I thought that here in London I might forget. You look understanding. You do understand, don't you?
Oh, poor dear man. Of course. Oh, my, I understand. I'm a widow myself. Only my daughter Daisy and me. How I do feel for you.
You're so kind.
Oh, no, not at all, I'm sure. You will join us for tea, won't you?
Oh, I should be delighted. Thank you so much. I had found a boarding house in Bloomsbury off the Tottenham Court Road. The proprietress, Mrs. Minns, was a tall, bony sort of woman, a type that I particularly despise, not at all nourishing to a man of my disposition. Now, the daughter she'd mentioned I hoped would be a better prospect, but I knew that I would have to be careful there. After unpacking, I went down to tea.
Oh!
I'm awfully sorry. I didn't mean to bother.
Oh, it's quite all right, I'm sure. You must be the new boarder, Dr. Cream.
Yes, I've been asked into tea.
Oh, they're waiting for you. You're in for it. I'll pass muster, as poor old Dad used to say.
Dear, oh dear, is that dreadful?
You'll see.
As bad as that, huh?
Worse. Oh, excuse me, I've got to put the kettle on. Maid's day off, you know.
May I help you?
Oh, of course not.
Then you could help me pass muster when we come back.
Oh, you know, you're not at all what I expected.
What did you expect?
Well, from the way Mum talked, I don't know. Oh, all right, come along.
Daisy Minns was not a beauty by any means, but there was a spark, an honesty, good humor that I found most enjoyable. We got on famously, but it was too soon to think about Daisy. Perhaps later. It was the evening of the fourth day after my arrival in London that I met Mildred Vickers. It was at a pub in Hammersmith. She was a sweet little thing, large brown eyes, rosy cheeks, perhaps encouraged by a touch of rouge. Altogether delightful. I must say that I flattered her with attentions not usually received, flowers, dinner, the theatre. She was very grateful. Oh, I'm tired. You?
Yes. Goodbye. Thanks very much.
Goodbye.
I wanted to tell you earlier tonight, I can't see you anymore.
You can't? You're joking.
I'm not. You've been a duck. We've had a lovely time, but it's finished. My young man's coming home tomorrow. He phoned me this morning from Southampton. His boat's coming.
Your young man? Your young man?
You'll wake up the whole house.
Millie, you'll be the death of me. Now, come along. Let's get inside.
You can't. I'm serious. It's like you said, laughs and all sorts of fun. It's over. Now, you be a good boy and...
Now, you get inside.
Stop it. Don't you go against me.
Millie, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lose my temper, but the way you told me, it's a shock. I thought you were joking.
I'm sorry. Really, I am.
I'm very fond of you, Millie. A chap gets fonder, and then... well... One last kiss, Millie, just one last kiss.
Of course. I knew you'd be a sport about it.
Millie, I can't let you go. I can't.
Oh, crikey.
Now, Millie, let's talk it over.
There's nothing to talk.
I'm just going to sit quietly and talk. I promised I'm not going to make any trouble for you. I just want you to understand.
Understand what? I'm tired.
Now, please, it's not too much to ask. We'll just have one drink and you listen to me. And if you want me to go, I'll go. I'll quietly, no bother. Everything's serene.
I'm sorry. It all sounds ever so sad, but my young man's coming in tomorrow.
Will you stop talking about your young man? Millie, I didn't mean that. I'm not angry, but please, now, will you look here? There's so much that I can give you. I'm not young, anymore, but you found me attractive. You do find me attractive, don't you? Well, don't you? What are you smiling about? What the heck? What are you laughing at? Millie? Millie! Millie!
Stop your shouting. You think I want the police on me?
No. You want me to go?
That's right.
Well, I'll be as good as my word then, Millie. There's no hard feelings.
Of course not, silly.
Farewell drink?
Not for me, thanks.
Just a splash. We're going to drink to your young man.
Wouldn't he just laugh if he knew?
Wouldn't he just?
You ought to find yourself a nice widow. Someone like you. And settle down.
Yes, I know what you mean, Millie. Here we are.
Thanks. Now off it. Like a good boy.
Millie, I suppose I really should tell you that I don't care about you at all. That nonsense that I was saying before, I didn't mean it, you know. I don't quite understand why I said anything. You're not worth it. A nasty little... Yeah. That burns, doesn't it? It doesn't burn for long, though. You annoyed me very much by chucking me over. Not that I cared because of you, but me, you see. And it isn't going to be long. I just want you to know. Can you hear me? I just want you to know that every time we went to a public place together, I was ashamed. Ashamed to be seen with someone like you. Good night.
Autolite is bringing you Mr. Charles Laughton in Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison. Tonight's production in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
September 17th, 1951, Suspense on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Has someone in your family lost a job recently, and now you can't afford your mortgage payment? Or do you have a rental property and your tenants aren't paying you? We can come to the rescue and pay you cash for your home immediately. Yes, sell your home and get cash all over the phone without dealing with real estate agents or having to waste time showing your home to lukewarm buyers. You don't need to lose your house to foreclosure. If you have equity in your home, we'll buy your home and give you cash within days, all in a simple over-the-phone and virtual process. Call now before your situation gets worse. Sell a home you can't afford or just need anymore and get the cash you need today. Call this number now.
800-477-4612. 800-477-4612. 800-477-4612. That's 800-477-4612. Paid for by Want to Sell.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Suspense, Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, from September 17th, 1951.
And now, Autolite brings back to our Hollywood soundstage Mr. Charles Laughton in Elliot Lewis's production of Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, a dramatic report well calculated to keep you in suspense.
For the next 2 or 3 nights I stayed in at the boarding house, I don't think I felt well. At least I couldn't sleep. My sleep wasn't at all restful. I had dreams. Horrible, frightening dreams. I remember that just before I dropped off to sleep one night, soon after Millie was taken, that I thought to myself that I must speak to Mrs. Mintz about the cooking. All that heavy stuff.
Dr. Cream! Dr. Cream! Dr. Cream! Wake up. Wake up, Doctor. It's all right. It's all right.
Help! Anything the matter?
I hope you'll forgive the liberty, sir. I'm afraid you were having a nightmare. It sounded as though you were being murdered.
Murdered? You thought I was, did I say anything?
You screamed, sir.
Oh, is that all?
It sounded... Well, I'm awfully sorry.
That's quite all right. It's very good of you to be concerned. You're that young medical student Mrs. Vince told me about, aren't you, Mr.
Bridgman, sir.
Yeah, that's right, Bridgman. We should have a chat one day soon, lunch perhaps. You specializing?
I haven't made up my mind yet, Doctor.
Good. Lots of time for that,
Yes. Well, I think I'd better go back to bed.
I was sorry to have troubled you.
Not at all. Good night.
Good night. I wonder, is he lying? Did I say something? Did he hear it? I wonder.
Blast!
But 2 weeks passed and I was safe. Nobody knew, nobody, unless Mr. Edward Bridgman, the medical student. I'd taken him to lunch 2 or 3 times and we talked, medicine for the most part. But he had a way of looking, curious and knowing. I decided to write the letter to Scotland Yard.
Commissioner, Inspector Waring here. I think we've got something more on that poison case in Hull and Millie Vickers. Yes, a letter. It says, to whom it may concern, I have information which can lead to the arrest of the person responsible for the murder of Millie Vickers in Hammersmith. Is it worth £3,000? If so, leave the money at the pillar box on the corner of Kensington and Earl's Court Road. Plain wrapping paper will do. And it's signed A. O'Brien, Private Detective. Yes, sir. Yes, we'll see to it straight away.
It was aggravating not to be able to learn whether the police had accepted my offer. I could have used the money, but other more important things were occupying my time. Mr. Bridgman. I loathe bright young men, and I had a feeling that he was watching me cleverly and carefully. I had to put a stop to that. He knew that was certain, so I took to following him. As far as I could make out, he didn't voice his suspicions to the police, but there was a girl. He met her from time to time, and one day when they were having tea together, I think he saw me. Because from where I stood outside the tea shop, I saw Mr. Bridgman lean across the table and talk rapidly to his sweetheart, and that would have to be taken care of. It was. A week later. I beg your pardon.
Oh, yes?
Now, you must think me awfully rude, but aren't you Edward Bridgman's young lady?
Why, yes, but I don't believe
No, we haven't met. Edward's told me so much about you, though. I saw you together as I went by on the bus last week. You were coming out of a tea shop.
That's right, in Oxford Street.
Yes. Now, look here. Mm-hmm. I wanted to meet you for a long time to talk about Edward.
Oh?
Well, I mean, you're going together, and I saw...
I suppose so, in a way.
Exactly. I'm very fond of him, you know. As a matter of fact, I've spoken to some colleagues of mine in the profession, you understand. And your Edward has a future, I think.
That's sweet of you, Mr...
No, it's Dr. Cream.
Of course, he has spoken of you. You're staying at the same boarding house.
Yes, we are. I hope he said nice things.
Oh, yes, but you know Edward. He doesn't talk much about anybody, does he?
Yes, that is what I wanted to talk to you about. Now, do you think we could go somewhere? Would you like a spot of tea which I could drink?
Well, I don't know. You see, I really should
please, it's really important to Edward. Clever little devil, but a rotten actress. You know Edward, he doesn't talk much about anybody. Does he? Because I could see through a plan perfectly well. Trap me into an admission of guilt and then call the police, but I was ready for that. It was a little sad. I didn't even know her name. She had a pretty face. And a pretty figure. No name. Just Mr. Bridgman's young lady. It was dark when we walked along the quiet road leading to our house. I'd been the perfect gentleman and had escorted her home. She died behind a hedge. Convulsively, but within 3 minutes. I made sure that there was no outcry, nobody heard, nobody saw, and nobody cared except perhaps for a medical student. To whom it may concern, ask Mr. Edward Bridgman, who lives in Mrs. Minn's boarding house, what he knows about the murders of Millie Vickers and Joyce Hamilton. He killed them both. I offer this information, greatest A. O'Brien, private detective. Yes?
Oh, evening, Dr. Cream.
Hello, Daisy. Come in for a chat, or is it a sore throat?
Neither. Mum asked me to ask you something.
Oh.
She wonders how long you'll be staying.
Well, I'm perfectly happy. I hadn't thought of moving. Why?
I don't know. Mum didn't say. I'll tell her what you said.
Daisy, just a minute. Close the door like a good girl. I want to talk to you.
Gentlemen lodgers' doors must be kept open when receiving female company.
Drat that notice. I've read it, too. Now just close the door and don't be silly. Daisy, come here. Have you read about the murders, the poisoner?
Oh, who hasn't?
What do you think?
Oh, I don't. But Mum says he's one of those, you know.
Hey, shall I tell you a secret?
What?
You won't tell.
Of course not. What?
I think I know who the murderer is.
Really? Have you told the police?
Well, yes. I wrote them a letter. I told them who it was.
No. Who?
Come here. Edward Bridgman.
Charles Laughton is Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, an episode of Suspense from September 17th, 1951, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion and the start of another Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story follows these messages from your favorite station.
Attention Walmart shoppers. Now you can order one of the most advanced hearing aids on the market for hundreds, not thousands of dollars. Hearing Assist's most advanced product lineup includes models that use an exclusive app for enhanced control over what you want to hear. It's perfect if you have a smartphone or iPhone to hear everything better. And we have 2 great ways for you to get one. You can call the number at the end of this ad and order directly. Or you can call this same number and we will text you a complete list of Walmart Vision Center locations. We make it easy for you to hear better. Remember, call this number today to order and have a text message instantly sent to your phone to find the Walmart Vision Center near you. Here's that special number.
Call 800-360-0597. 800-360-0597. 800-360-0597. That's 800-360-0597.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, the conclusion of Suspense. Charles Laughton starring as Neal Cream, Doctor of Poison, September 17th, 1951.
Oh, you're pulling my leg.
Very pretty leg, Daisy, but I'm not.
Oh, how do you know? I know it's Dottie.
I know. I do.
Oh, Dr. Cream, you are the one. Oh, I should know better than to listen to you, always joking. Well, I've got to go downstairs now. Mum will be wondering. Ta-ta.
Daisy, wait. I've got to tell you something. Darn, I could have killed her. She thought it was a joke. There had been so many things to tell her, clues, proof, everything to help get rid of the medical student. And she wouldn't listen. And after she'd gone, I was afraid that she might remember. Darn, I could have killed her. It was Saturday, 2 days after I'd posted the letter to Scotland Yard. I thought I'd take a walk to Hyde Park and was leaving my room to go downstairs when the front door bell rang.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Mrs. Minn?
Yes.
We're from Scotland Yard.
Police?
I should like to have a word with a Mr. Edward Bridgman. Does he live here?
Yes. Won't you come in? Is anything wrong?
Is he at home?
It's in the drawing room, I think. Shall I call him?
Yes, if you don't mind.
Not at all, I'm sure. Mr. Bridgman.
Yes, Mrs. Minn?
Mr. Bridgman?
Yes?
I'd like to speak to you, if you don't mind.
Oh, what about?
Tell me, is there somewhere we can,
Afternoon, everybody.
Oh, hello, Doctor.
Nice day. I thought I'd take a walk.
Mum, all right if I go to the cinema with Agnes? Oh, Police?
Run along, Daisy. Don't be home late.
Mr. Bridgman.
Come along, Daisy. I'll walk along with you.
You were right all the time, Doctor. Oh, and to think I didn't believe you.
What did you say, miss?
Oh, just a little joke of ours, Inspector, nothing at all. Come along, Daisy. I can't wait, Daisy.
Just a moment, sir. Miss, do you know something about this?
Of course I do. But Dr. Cream told me he wrote a letter to you about Mr. Bridgman. He told me. Didn't you, Doctor?
Dr. Cream, you wrote us a letter signed A. O'Brien?
Bridgman's your man, sir. I wanted to spare him the humiliation. That's your man. I told Daisy I thought he might try to harm
What
you.
are you saying? I never...
It's all right, Mr. Bridgman. I don't think we shall need to trouble you. Come along, Doctor, if you don't mind. There are a few questions we should like to ask you at the yard.
Oh, of course, of course. Having set down this case history, my own, let the judge and all responsible for my unfair trial be warned that death will come to them from an unseen agency. What I did in honor and right. No human power has the right to condemn me. Those that died because of their own misdeeds. I have been merely the instrument of justice. For this, I cannot hang. Neal Cream, M.D.
Dr. Neal Cream.
It won't hurt, will it? I can't stand pain. It won't hurt, will it?
Suspense. Presented by Autolite. Tonight's star, Mr. Charles Laughton.
Elliot Lewis produced some amazing episodes of Suspense. This one from September 17th, 1951 on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Listen up, guys. Are you experiencing any of the following? Fatigue, less drive, poor performance? If so, you may be one of the nearly 30 million men in the U.S. today dealing with ED. But did you know you don't have to pay hundreds for a prescription anymore? And you don't have to deal with the hassle of seeing the doctor or the embarrassment of going to the pharmacy for a certain pill. Now, with one free call, you can find out how Herbal Virility Max can help you feel like a man again. For over a decade, Herbal Virility Max has helped guys just like you put a smile back on their face with improved performance and drive. Call today and ask about our buy one, get one free offer.
800-772-6113. 800-772-6113. 800-772-6113. That's 800-772-6113.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we start a brand new yours truly Johnny Dollar story. This one, The Imperfect Alibi Matter. This was originally broadcast September 17th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Joe McNabb, Northeast Indemnity.
Hi, Joe. Good to hear your voice.
It's not mutual, Johnny.
And I always thought you cared.
Whenever I hear your voice, it's because I'm in trouble.
Oh, what is it this time?
Ever hear of Harvey Stone?
Sure, the Stone Corporation.
And Stone Enterprises and the Stone Foundation.
Sounds like he's a foundation himself.
Practically. Late 30s, bachelor. Took over the management from his father, E.J., when the old boy got crippled up with arthritis last year.
So?
So the total amount of insurance we're carrying on him is over $100,000.
So?
He lives in New York, Westchester County. Last night he was driving along a road in the country. A small object hit his windshield.
Oh, look, Joe, don't tell me you want me to investigate a claim for a broken windshield.
I sure do, Johnny. That small object was a bullet.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to Northeast Indemnity Associates, Hartford, Connecticut. Following is an account of expenditures during my investigation of the Imperfect Alibi Matter. Expense account item 1, $1 even, taxi to the office of Northeast Indemnity where Joe McNabb was waiting for me.
It's kind of a complicated situation, Johnny.
Yeah, well, it usually is when people get shot at, Joe.
Now, mind, we're not sure the bullet was meant for Harvey Stone. He's inclined to brush the whole thing off, thinks somebody might have been doing a little target practice in the woods.
Stray shot, huh? Well, could be.
Yes, but with the kind of insurance we're carrying on...
Yeah, better give me a rundown on him.
Harvey's father, E.J., built up the business, a widower. 2 years ago, he remarried. Last year, he had to retire. He's in a wheelchair now.
I see.
Well, now Harvey is running things. Lives with his father and stepmother in a big place in Westchester County, but he also keeps a small apartment on East 57th in Manhattan.
Uh-huh. Any trouble in the family? Anything like that?
Harvey's been running around lately with a supper club singer named Helen Barrett. I gather he's thinking of marrying her. I also gather his family is bitterly opposed to the idea.
How about Harvey's business affairs? Could he have made any enemies there?
One, at least.
Oh.
Dutch Krieger. Know him?
Yeah, I sure do. A gambler with a lot of dough behind him and a couple of gunsels in front.
That's the one.
Now, how come he get mixed up with a character like Krieger?
He didn't. He refused to.
Come again?
Krieger's put on a big act about going legitimate. Young Stone was negotiating a sizable real estate transaction recently. Found out that Krieger was one of the associates in the deal. He threatened to call it all off, made the other associates kick Krieger out.
Uh-oh, Dutch wouldn't forget a thing like that.
No, he wouldn't.
Well, who's the beneficiary on Stone's insurance policies?
Father and stepmother jointly. Johnny, I smell trouble. I want you to go down there, nose around, see what you can turn up. And do me a slight favor.
Sure. What is it?
Keep Harvey Stone alive, will you?
Expense account item 2, $12.50, transportation and incidentals to the Stone estate in Westchester County. It was one of those massive, dignified-looking places, nestling comfortably in about 10 acres of grounds. The butler showed me into a room only about half as big as Grand Central Station, so I wandered around inspecting the paneling and the Italian works of art. Then I zeroed in on one of the paintings. It involved a luscious lady, a bunch of grapes, and a pool of water.
Nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
The painting, I mean. Quite nice, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, if you like grapes. You must be...
I'm Mrs. Stone, Mr. Dollar. Daphne Stone.
Mrs.? I didn't know the wedding had taken place.
My, you are behind the times. It took place 2 years ago.
Well,
I'm Mrs. E.J. Stone.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, is your, stepson here?
Harvey, he should be back any minute. He had to run into the city. But let me give you a tip, Mr. Dollar. Don't call Harvey my stepson in front of him.
Oh.
You see, he and I are just about the same age, and he's...
Yeah, okay, I'll remember. How about Harvey's father? Is he here?
Yes, my husband will be along in just a moment. He has to get around in a wheelchair now, but he's very stubborn. Won't let anyone push him.
Well, Mrs. Stone, I think you know why I'm here.
Yes, of course. About that absurd thing that happened to Harvey last night.
Absurd?
Well, isn't it ridiculous to think that it was an attempt on his life? After all, he will go tearing around these roads at night in his sports car. Probably someone out hunting.
Is that what you think, Mrs. Stone?
What else could it be? Nobody has any reason to kill Harvey.
Everything harmonious here at home, I suppose.
Of course.
How about Harvey's plans to marry Helen Barrett?
Oh, yes, that.
That?
Mr. Dollar, say, I'm getting a little weary of that name. It's Johnny, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Daphne. Johnny, let me give you another tip.
You seem to be full of them. What's this one, Daphne?
I wouldn't mention Harvey's fiancée to his father.
Oh?
Mr. Stone is quite violently opposed to the match.
How about you, Daphne? How do you feel about it?
Why, anything Harvey wants. Oh, Edward, this is Mr. Dollar.
Yes, I know.
Hello, Mr. Stone.
That idiot McNabb from the insurance company phoned me about you, Dollar. Worries like an old woman. Seems to think that fool accident Harvey had last night was an attempted murder.
Oh, he's just taking normal precautions, Mr. Stone.
Precautions. Well, just as well, I suppose. Harvey could use a nursemaid. He always manages to get things fouled up somehow.
Now, Edward,
You want to see my orchids, Dollar?
Orchids?
Of course you do. This way out in the solarium.
Okay. Oh, here, let me push you.
Never mind. I can manage.
All my good advice.
Sorry, Daphne.
This way, Dollar.
I'll have a drink for you when you're ready, Johnny.
Thanks.
Here we are.
Well, some orchids.
Who cares about orchids? Just wanted to talk to you.
Well?
What do you make of this business, Dollar? About Harvey, I mean. That bullet in his windshield last night. You really figure somebody's trying to kill him?
Well, I don't know, Mr. Stone. That's what I'm here to find out.
Well, I don't know who it'd be. Harvey's not a bad sort, really. Terrible businessman.
Oh? How so?
Oh, I could run the Stone Corporation better than he does from my wheelchair.
He, doesn't do things your way, huh?
Nothing's like it used to be. Everything's done differently now.
Maybe it has to be.
Has to be. Business is business.
Yeah. Well, how about his fiancée? I suppose you disapprove of her, too.
Helen Barrett? No, by golly, I've got to hand it to Harvey there. Don't quite know how he managed to land someone like her.
Wait a minute. You mean you're not opposed to his marrying her?
More power to him. Chip off the old block, I guess.
What's that mean?
Oh, I did the same thing. That's what. Picked himself a Broadway girl.
You mean Mrs. Stone, Daphne?
Right out of musical comedy.
I see. How does she feel about Helen Barrett?
Yeah, won't seem to warm up to her. Oh, well, how can you figure out a woman?
Yeah, how can you? So it's Daphne that disapproves of Helen. Oh, that's very interesting.
Interesting? It's a nuisance.
Here's your drink, Johnny.
Oh, thanks, Daphne. Mr. Stone, you're not having any?
No, that fool doctor of mine says no.
Edward, you look tired. Perhaps you'd better rest.
Tired? Who's tired?
Well, then just one more question, Mr. Stone.
What is it?
Do you know of anyone who might want to kill Harvey?
Once in a while, I sure would.
Edward.
I tell you, when I think of how he's running that business into the ground, I could wring his neck.
Edward, it's no time for jokes. Johnny, this whole thing is ridiculous. Harvey hasn't an enemy in the world.
Well, have you gotten me nicely taken apart by now, people?
Oh, Harvey, dear.
Hello, Daphne. Father?
This is Dollar, Harvey. Jimmy, isn't it?
Johnny.
Yes, I heard Mr. Dollar was coming. And why? How are you?
You look tired, Harvey. Let me fix you a drink.
Thanks, darling.
Thanks, darling. You know, Dollar, sometimes I wonder which one of us is married to Daphne.
That was a perfectly charming thing to say, Edward.
Yes, Father, you seem to be in unusually good form tonight. This is for the benefit of our guests, no doubt.
Look, if I could just talk to you for a moment, Harvey.
Oh, don't mind these little exchanges, Johnny. If you're around this place very long, you'll get used to them.
Good night.
Good night, Father.
Mr. Stone.
Like a drink now, Harvey?
Oh, never mind, Daphne. I can manage.
All right. I'll go on up then. I hope we'll be seeing you again, Johnny.
Oh, you probably will. Good night.
I'm sorry about that business with Father just now, Johnny. Most of the time, he thinks it's fine that Daphne and I get on so well together, but sometimes he doesn't. I suppose now he's in the wheelchair, he feels the difference in their ages even more.
Yeah.
And ever since I've taken over the management of the corporation, well... Oh, I'm sure he must have made it very clear he doesn't approve of my policies. And he's probably right.
Oh?
Well, my heart's not in it, really, but somebody had to take over.
Look, Harvey, you said you knew why I was here.
Oh, sure. About that silly business last evening.
Well, what exactly happened?
Well, I have a new sports car that I'm fond of. I went for a drive. You know, there's some pretty good country roads around here. Mm-hmm. And I slowed for a sharp turn, and I heard what I thought was a backfire. But my windshield shattered. It was a bullet.
What'd you do then?
I stopped to warn whoever it was to keep away from the roads.
It didn't occur to you that somebody might be trying to kill you?
Oh, well, good Lord, no. Look, Johnny, I used to roam these woods when I was a kid, taking pot shots at fence posts. That's obviously what happened last night.
You didn't see anyone when you stopped?
No, it was probably some kid. He's probably still running.
And you can't think of anyone who might want to kill you?
Of course not.
How about Dutch Krieger?
Krieger, the gambler?
I understand he was involved in a business deal you were thinking of making. You refused to go through with it until his associates dumped him.
Of course. After all, the name Stone does have a pretty honorable history. I couldn't very well have it connected with somebody like Krieger.
Well, Dutch wouldn't forget a thing like that. Look, about your fiancée, Helen Barrett.
Johnny, I suggest you confine your questions to subjects not quite so personal.
All right, so I sound nosy, but you're heavily insured, Harvey, and that bullet last night could have been meant for you. My job is to find out if there's anyone who could possibly have any reason to kill you.
There isn't.
Do you know of anyone who's opposed to your marriage?
I told you I'd rather not talk about that. Anyway, there's a good chance there isn't going to be any marriage.
No. What do you mean?
Look, Johnny, I have a good idea. It's almost time for the last train into the city. I'll drive you to the station.
A polite but firm message that the interview was over. Harvey got called to the phone, and I went outside to wait for him. Daphne had lied when she told me Harvey's father opposed the marriage to nightclub singer Helen Barrett. It was Daphne who didn't like the idea. She and Harvey seemed pretty chummy, and the old man didn't seem to like that. Harvey had crossed a rough boy named Dutch Krieger in a business deal, and it's a cinch Dutch didn't like that. And now Harvey just told me there might not be a marriage, which indicated some kind of trouble there. All in all, it looked like a cozy little powder keg. Then as I started for Harvey's car, the keg exploded right in my stomach in the form of a fist. I couldn't see who they were, but the two of them really knew their business, the way they worked me over. Hard enough to hurt, not hard enough to put me out. Finally, I guess they got bored. One of them did me a favor. He put me away.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow? Well, look, you should never get in a card game with a professional gambler. He can deal you any card he wants, even the ace of spades. The death card. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Robert Reif, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
From September 17th, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We thank you for making us a part of your day. This week's episodes of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, made possible to us by our friend Ted over at RadioMemories.com. He supplies shows on cassette, CD, or flash drive for your computer. RadioMemories.com. Now, if you wouldn't mind, thank this radio station, support their advertisers. It's their kindness and courtesy that allow us to be with you each and every time we roll around here on your favorite station. And if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. All of our shows are available on demand at our webpage, classicradio.stream, where you can stream our shows on demand, learn more about classic radio collecting. You can find a link of sites where our shows are available for download. You can also contact me there. That's at classicradio.stream. You can also buy me a coffee. That helps us acquire additional classic radio theater programs. That's classicradio.stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station.